right about now, can I? I can, right? Yes, yes, yes. So if I just pull this out, I pulled up the wrong thing. Here we go. The Untold Secret behind Classic WoW's Immortality. Pretty bold claim, but let's, yeah, don't need me to tap.
Server clusters are on the rise, and I'm sure you've all heard rumors of a Classic Fresh or a Psalm 2 coming in the near future. But this makes me wonder, why vanilla, and why now? The answer to this is quite simple, yet a little bit complex. I'm going to do my best to explain the situation, but to be honest, this topic will always be an intriguing phenomenon in the WoW community. Let's take a trip down memory lane and try to understand why vanilla WoW will always have a special place in many of our hearts.
Okay. Oh, dude.
Mighty kingdoms.
The old, terrible quality WoW videos. The only thing missing is like a PvP montage with fraps. I miss fraps, bro. Was it called fraps? It was fraps, right?
Ancient alliances are reforged. And an unexplored world awaits.
Dude, I still get like massive nostalgia when I'm playing Classic WoW, just from back in the days when I used to play. I started playing Classic WoW in vanilla when I was way too young, and I still remember like when I got my first ever account and we had to download WoW. You had like these CDs, you had 4 CDs, you had to put in CD 1, you got a pop-up saying, please put in CD 2. And now I'm here like, we can download everything digitally. No CD, no CD 1, no CD 2. Oh, the great cinematics. The strength of many. Anyone remember Ventrilo days? Yeah, dude.
Blizzard Entertainment proudly invites you to experience Warcraft from a whole new perspective. Stake your claim. Live the legend.
Ragnaros.
A world awaits. The world
Of Warcraft.
of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft was first released on November 23rd, 2004. Many of us who still play today were in high school at the time or even younger. It truly was a different period in time. There were no smartphones, no YouTube, no Twitch, and everyone ate fruit roll-ups or Dunkaroos as a snack when they got home from school. It was a
And we had flip phones playing Snake.
much simpler time in general. The internet had just started taking off, and the average person spent most of their time online watching Newgrounds videos or downloading music illegally from Kazaa or LimeWire. We of course still played video games back then, but we were playing our GameCubes, Xboxes, and learning how to score with hookers in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. We spent our weekends, Friday nights, and summers playing split-screen Halo on our friends' couches, running around in Blood Gulch blasting each other with rocket launchers. This was the extent of our multiplayer gaming experience at the time. We had a few online multiplayer games at the time, like SOCOM on the PlayStation 2, and of course Halo 2 on the Xbox, but then something changed. World of Warcraft had launched. WoW initially launched at a time when most people had either just convinced their parents to get a home PC, or even built their very first gaming PC. Dial-up internet through AOL at speeds of 34 kilobytes per second was still the most common way to access the internet. DSL was a huge step above that, coming in at a whopping 861 kilobytes per second. Internet speeds of just 10 megabytes per second were non-existent at the time, so the idea of being able to log into a game where the world was always alive even after you logged off was such a crazy thing for most of us to understand. There were other games that offered this at the time, like EverQuest, but none of them hit the mainstream like World of Warcraft. People began purchasing the game, creating their characters, and logging into the world for the first time. Now keep in mind that this was a time where most add-ons were non-existent, so the world of Azeroth was just one big mystery that players were leveling up in, exploring for the first time. Think back to the first character you ever created in World of Warcraft. Think back to how you felt walking around Elwyn Forest, Mulgore, or Teldrassil in those first few days of playing the game. The sights, the sounds, the enemies, and the mystery around every corner are what started getting people hooked. It was an experience unlike anything that most of us had ever had before. The dopamine rush of leveling up, increasing our character's stats, equipping new armor, and learning new abilities that had new animations tied to them gave you a constant sense of progression and adventure unlike any other. On top of all of this, seeing and interacting with other players who were also on their very own adventure made the game feel truly alive.
Yeah,
The game
dude.
forced you to group up with and communicate with other players to complete elite level quests or to clear dungeons with bosses that yielded.
Dude, watching that cinematic from like Mulgore just takes me back. For me, that intro into Mulgore was just perfect, because my first ever character in Classic WoW was a Tauren Hunter. I didn't get very far before I remade my hunter into a Night Elf, and my Night Elf hunter back in Vanilla WoW, like very young Solheim, got to like level 56 I think it was. I never got to 60, even in TBC, but in Vanilla WoW, I was 50 plus. I just didn't know where to go after level 56, I had no clue, and when TBC came out, I didn't understand that there was new content being added to the game, so for me, the new thing I saw was a Blood Elf, so I made a Blood Elf rogue, started all over again, and started playing. Got to like, what, level 30 on that one, and then took a break until Wrath came out. I feel like I missed out. I missed out on a lot of Classic WoW, like Vanilla WoW and TBC, but I was just way too young back then. Way too young to understand what was happening at all. I wish I was born earlier, so I could have fully understood the game.
Powerful loot, like weapons and armor that you would then be able to equip and make your character even stronger while you were out in the world on your adventure to level 60. These first impressions and experiences that we had during our first few months, or even the first year of playing the game, became imprinted in our DNA in some ways. World of Warcraft had become an extension of who most people that played it were at the time, and no one realized in the moment, but the truest form of nostalgia was being created. As players progressed their characters through the various zones while leveling up, they would have experiences with other players or even NPCs that most of them surprisingly still remember to this day, almost 20 years later. Now, it's hard to comprehend this, but it's remarkable that people had experiences in a fictional world 20 years ago sitting at their computer in the dark that were so interesting or so exhilarating that they left lasting impressions in their psyche. I'm sure many of you watching this right now can think back to playing the original vanilla version of World of Warcraft and remember something hilarious or interesting that happened while you were drinking your Dr. Pepper or cocaine energy drink while either PvPing or raiding on a...
Dude, I just remember being a dumb-ass Tauren Hunter, having no idea how Hunter even worked. I never kited it back, I just stood still, auto-shooting, until the mob got in melee range. Me walking, like, I didn't understand that I could walk with an enemy on my tail. Like, I just stood still. I stood in one place. Eventually, the enemy got in melee range, and I would just melee it down. So dumb. And I also remember like actually roleplaying in Goldshire. Wasn't really, was it Goldshire at that time? We were everywhere, dude.
Friday night. That leads me into my next segment, raiding. Raiding in Vanilla WoW was truly an amazing concept. You and 39 of your guildmates would hop into voice comms for the night and attempt to clear massive dungeons that were called raids in an attempt to defeat all bosses and receive the highest tier loot available for your characters. These weapons and armor and equipment that these bosses dropped became iconic, because back then, guilds weren't clearing Molten Core in under 1 hour. It took hours and hours, and sometimes multiple nights per week for hours on end. So when you saw a warrior running towards you with Bone Reaper's Edge in your Warsong Gulch, you knew he meant business. Or when you saw a rogue standing near the Stormwind Fountain wearing the full Bloodfang set, you immediately wanted to reroll a rogue, just to be able to look as awesome as they did. Aside from raiding,
That is low-key one of the reasons why when TBC came out, I made a Blood Elf rogue. Like, first of all, Blood Elves were just really cool back then, but also, having seen that tier set before, I wanted to get that at some point. I never did, but that just like helped me make my decision of being a rogue. which I never got past level 30 on anyway, so who cares?
Vanilla World of Warcraft had some of the most satisfying player versus player combat for its time. Sure, it was unbalanced and janky at times, but class fantasy was truly at a high point in this version of the game. If you played a rogue in PvP, you actually felt like an assassin, as you were able to sneak up on cloth-wearing casters and nearly one-shot them with an ambush from the shadows. If you played an arms warrior, you'd be wielding massive two-handed weapons, charging into combat and slamming your enemies around like an unstoppable juggernaut. Or you could choose to play a mage, where you truly felt the power of your elemental magic, hurling massive fire.
Dude, anyone who played back then on a more serious note than I did, or a more serious way than I did, were mage boosting or mage farming everything in vanilla WoW? Because they definitely had the toolkit to do so. I just don't know if that meta ever developed. I have no clue.
Fireballs and frostbolts at your enemies, all while simultaneously controlling
It
the
did?
battlefield with slows, snares, and other crowd control effects. PvP in Vanilla World of Warcraft had a certain charm to it, as well as raiding. As time went on, expansions were released for the game. These expansions changed core mechanics and gameplay for certain classes. Some of these changes were good, and some were most definitely bad. At the time of writing this video in 2023, World of Warcraft Dragonflight has recently launched. And if you put Vanilla WoW from 2004 and Dragonflight from 2022 side by side, they are absolutely completely different games.
What do you mean, bro? Dragonflight, best expansion. Whoop whoop. Hype. Boosting was a thing, but not in the same scale as Classic. Ah. So, it was there. The tech was there. People were doing it. It just wasn't like... Trade chat wasn't filled with want to sell Mara boosts, pretty much. Also, speaking of Mara boosts, were people doing Mara boosts? Or was it just like, I don't know, stockades? Dead mines? I would be surprised if anyone back in Vanilla WoW did that 200 mob pull from Classic WoW. I would be shocked and surprised.
Which is why a few years ago, back in 2019, we received a re-release of Classic WoW. We got to progress through Vanilla WoW once again, which then progressed into the Burning Crusade expansion and now into Wrath of the Lich King. Which leads me to the point of this entire video. Lately, the Classic era realms have been revived, solely by players fiending for the Vanilla WoW experience once again.
Dude, we need Vanilla Fresh, bro. At some point, we just need Vanilla Fresh. And I'm not talking about Season of Mastery 2, or whatever the Season of X is going to be. I want Vanilla WoW Fresh. We're getting hardcore servers now. We're probably getting Season of Mastery either in December or early next year. They said more info would be out later this year, so we're probably getting information at BlizzCon, I would say, like on a Vanilla Fresh or Season of Mastery 2. But we need just like regular fresh Vanilla WoW. Literally, yeah, fresh Vanilla WoW servers that could transfer over to Classic era at some point, but in my, this is what I'm thinking. We should get fresh Vanilla WoW servers, which eventually becomes Classic Plus. Give us fresh Vanilla WoW, and after fresh Vanilla WoW has run through its entire course, gone through Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, all the way through Nex, at the end give us Classic Plus. Class changes, future content, Scarlet Monastery raid, Scarlet raid, whatever. All of the extra content, give it to us afterwards. And give people an option. They can either transfer that character away or copy it to a Classic era server to stay in a Classic WoW universe forever, or they can keep on that server, which is going to progress over to Classic Plus. It's just a very easy solution if you ask me. Someone might be against that idea, but I just don't see anything wrong with that idea. That way you can relive your Classic WoW experience if you want to, you have a fresh Vanilla WoW experience, and you get Classic Plus at the same time, plus you literally give Blizzard more time to work on Classic Plus, and look for feedback. Because throughout that Classic WoW Fresh, they can host PTRs with some changes and just ask for feedback based on those changes. It gives Blizzard over a year to work on Classic Plus while keeping players engaged by allowing us to play fresh Classic WoW. It's giving us content while also working on what everyone is asking for. I'm betting that's what they're doing, by the way. Next year, I'm betting that's going to be the plan. It would make it would make no sense if that wasn't the plan. It's just easy money for Blizzard. It's a easy way to keep us subscribed to the game while they work on Classic Plus. I don't know.
Enough time has passed since the launch of the Burning Crusade Classic. We played through that entire expansion, and now we're about 35% through the Wrath of the Lich King expansion. People are starting to miss and long for the vanilla universe already, and the reason for this is because with every expansion that comes out, the game changes more and more until it becomes completely unrecognizable. Now
I think the only issue with that idea is they have to dedicate big teams to make new content, whereas redoing TBC and shit is easy and can be handled by a small group of devs. I mean, certain Voldemort servers out there have devs of 2 or 3 people, and they're adding pretty much everything people are asking for Classic Plus. In which case, if Blizzard hires 3 developers of the same caliber, they can make the same thing with 3 developers as a multi-billion-dollar company, which a Voldemort server can do pretty much for free, or by paying them probably what's going to be the medium or median average wage, I would say. As a billion-dollar company, hiring the team to make Classic Plus shouldn't really be the problem, and if it is, then I think priorities are the real problem in that case, because Classic Plus could be massive. They can't just keep rehashing Classic WoW, TBC, and Wrath Classic forever. It's gonna lose a bunch of players every single time. If we got a fresh Classic WoW launch right now, which was vanilla, into TBC, into Wrath, it would have a substantially less player base than the first run had. And if we have a third run, then it's going to have a substantially less amount of players than the second run had. So every time you're bleeding a bunch of players, you just have to make Classic Plus at some point. Just makes no sense.
absolutely nothing wrong with Wrath of the Lich King or Dragonflight. Both are decent games. But remember earlier when we talked about those extremely impactful impressions that were left on our psyche? For most of us, those impressions and our nostalgic love for vanilla WoW will never go away because it's part of who we are as gamers. Those zones, music, enemies, and gear sets bring us back to a simpler time in life, when we were just kids and had minimal responsibilities compared to what most of us have today. It allows us to escape and go back in a time machine. Even if it's just for a few hours a week, it feels like home. It's comforting, relaxing, and just an all-around fun time in general. Most of us can play a classic fresh over and over again, even though it's been just a few years since the last re-release.
A bunch of us can, yeah. I would.
To play a fresh vanilla WoW will never go away for the majority of players. World of Warcraft has helped many people overcome some serious real-life obstacles and complications. It has helped form real and lasting friendships across the globe and was a massive innovative step in online gaming in general. Hopefully, the rumors are true and we receive a classic fresh sometime soon, so we can once again adventure through Azeroth all the way to level 60, world PvP the entire way there, and then raid Blackwing Lair with 15 Fury Warriors wearing Devilsaur. If you guys enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications so you don't miss the next time I post a video. Thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I'll see you all in the next one.
Oh, why did I click that, dude? Alright, there we go. Good video by Tavern Talk. Very good video, to be fair. Very well edited, just like good chill vibes all throughout. I'm gonna try to pop this out so you can see, yeah, Tavern Talk. Tavern Talk. I'm gonna subscribe, yeah. Subscribe and click a like. Big dude, yeah, that was a good one. Classic WoW definitely has a place in my heart. I feel like, even though for me it's not that much nostalgia, because once again I was way too young when I played Vanilla WoW the first time around. I was way too young back then. I like how they have a tree-formed druid in the Cthulhu fight, yeah. Yeah. Are you expecting some big classic news at BlizzCon or something more like some 2 plus Kata? I'm expecting the latter, I would say Cataclysm Classic, which I think a lot of people are going to be excited for. Like when Wrath came out, I saw about 20% of people being excited for Kata, and 80% of people saying that Wrath would be the last expansion, and now I see a bunch of people shifting their opinions to where it's like 50-50, maybe 60-40 in favor of people playing Kata, because A bunch of people that play Wrath right now, they're just raid logging. The first tier of raids in Kata is amazing. Blackwing the Descent, is it that? Blackwing Descent? Either way, that raid is fantastic. Bastion of Twilight is fantastic. The heroic only boss, fantastic. You also have the Throne of Four Winds. Is it Throne of Four Winds, the Alakir fight, for example? That one is great. It's a bunch of good things, I feel like. The only bad things are, for example, the last 2 or 3 or 4 bosses in the Dragon Soul raid. Did suck a little bit, I'll give it that one, and also Looking for raid. But the fact that we don't have a Looking for dungeon right now in Wrath also, in my opinion, means that we will never, and I mean never, see Looking for raid. Unless we get to the point where people are asking for it, and even then we probably won't, but we will never see Looking for raid. In which case, for me, Kata is a big win. I've always loved Kata. I've said this for a while, even when it was a hot topic, even if it is now. I've always loved Kata. Always will. Referring back to your question though, do I think it's only going to be Som 2 plus Kata? My doomer take on this would be yes, it's going to be an announcement of Som 2, which will be coming out either in December or January, plus Cataclysm Classic, will be announced on BlizzCon, but my not so doomer take and my hopeful take is that they're also announcing Classic Plus. Because the thing is, when they announced Classic WoW, they gave themselves what? Was it a year to work on Classic WoW between BlizzCon and when it came out? Or was it a year and a half? They gave themselves a bunch of time, in which case they can announce Classic Plus now, make people happy, and just start working on it. That announcement would be insane. So if they want to do the right thing, if they want to generate a bunch of hype around Classic WoW, they should announce Classic Plus. But once again, my doomer take would be Season of Mastery 2, which is not going to be called Season of Mastery, by the way, but until we know what the seasonal term would be, Season of Mastery 2 is the accepted term for it. It's like a nickname. We don't know, it's not going to be called Season of Mastery 2, that much we do know, but they never told us what it's going to be called, so until we know, we call it Season of Mastery 2. That, I think, is being announced, and Cataclysm also. But once again, if they do want to make a massive, wave, Classic Plus is how to do that. But I also think they're going to be talking about retail, so in this case, we're getting retail news, Season of Mastery 2 news, and Cataclysm news, which are 3 pretty big topics for Classic WoW. Expecting Classic Plus on top of that might be expecting too much, and if there's one thing I've learned from Blizzard is to do the complete opposite. Instead of expecting too much, expect absolutely nothing. But yeah, that's my reaction to the video, boys. Tavern Talk, big video. I absolutely love that one.